and welcome to Hedgehog Hollow and welcome to Honeybee Stamp's new release video. Today I'm delighted to be able to share with you one of their new sets called Ocean Bliss, containing lots of mermaids and fun that we can use. Now this card that we're going to make this stunning metallic watercolor background. I'm going to show you how to add sand to the stone to give you that realistic effect. We're going to blend those colours through her hair, and then we're going to add foiling to make it look like her mermaid scales. So many techniques, so let's get started. So our first step is to prepare our stone base for our mermaid to sit on, our rock in the sea, so that can dry whilst we're doing everything else. Now I've stamped out this lovely Ocean Bliss stamp twice, just on some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. I've already cut one out, and I used my scan and cut because the dies weren't available in pre-production yet, so I've just cut it out with a 0.04 outline if you have a scan and cut, but there are dies available as part of the release. Now this second one, I've got a pair of sharp paper snips, and I'm just going to cut out the base of my mermaid, which will layer onto our scene later on, but we want to cut this out so that we can add our sand. So I'm just going to trim all the way around with my snips. And I'm going to just make the top domed because we will stick our mermaid over the top, as you saw in my sample. And there we go. So that is our stone base, which we can add our sand to. I'm just going to use a Teflon mat, which I have here. I have a piece of my large sponge, which I'll link up in the supplies list. And I have the sand that was part of the Honeybee Stamps release. Now for adhesive for this, I'm going to be using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. And I have a piece of plastic that is just off the back of one of the stamp sets. I just snip a piece off and I use it to put my adhesive on, things like that, and I can then just throw them away afterwards. I'm also going to add just a little bit of colour. I've got two Copics here, an E42 and an E31. I'm using a Copic because it won't move with the adhesive, which is water based. You could use a zig marker, but it will bleed when you put the adhesive over it. And what I want to do is I want to just add some colour all over, so anywhere that doesn't get the sand will still have colour shining through. So I'm going to go over with my light colour. This is the E42, and then I'm going to just add some highlights, just depending what is left through. So I'm going to go around the outline of my mermaid because she would cast a darker shadow, and of course she will be layered over the top. And then I'm just going to take my lighter colour again and just blend some of those areas in, like so. So it's super easy, but I just want to make sure that everything's covered. Now I'm going to grab some of that adhesive with my sponge, and I'm just going to, kind of sparingly, I want to pay more attention to the edges than to the centre pieces, like that. And now I can add my sand on the top. So for that, I've got one of my pink tiny trays, or red tiny trays. They now just come in a clear or a white rather than the pink, but they'll be linked up underneath. These are the same trays I use for embossing powder and all those kinds of things. And I'm just going to sprinkle this over the top. So some on this side, and then I'm going to leave it probably for 10-15 minutes whilst we do the other areas of this card. So there you can see that you've got that sand on there, if I lift this up there, but that nice Copic colour is going to shine through underneath. So let's start foiling our mermaid so that we can layer her onto our stone. So to get those lovely reflections on the mermaid's tail, we're going to be using some Deco foil. I'm using the Deco foil adhesive pen, and you just pump it out and you'll start to see the adhesive come out. The foil is the same, it's the rose gold that I used the other day. If you saw my post with waffle flower, then this is actually the same piece. You can see that dress through there. So you can just use all of your scraps for these kinds of things. Now I don't want a solid area, I'm not colouring in, I'm just doing some dots. And the great thing with foil is you can go back in as many times as you need to. But I'm just going to start with her skirt. The pen dries really pretty quickly, so I'm going to just put this straight down. I'm going to use the most solid area. I'm going to really press firmly. And the thing with foiling that you'll find is when it's ready, it almost releases itself. You'll keep pressing and pressing and pressing, and then when it's ready, when you lift it up, you'll see you get your nice solid image. And you can see if I lift this up towards the camera that I don't have a solid image, that I do have those kind of scaly looks to them. And what I will do later on, you'll see, is I'll take a Copic or a Sharpie, something alcohol based, and we'll just add a little bit more of that detail into there. But it gives that lovely, lovely shimmer to her fins. I'm also going to do the same just in here on her little top, and also on the flower in her hair, because we'll add some more colours with that in a second. So I'm just smoothing my finger over those two areas, and my flower's already done, and as is her top. So there we are, we've added lots of shimmer and sparkle to her. You can decide whether you want to do this bottom bit of the fin, but I want to do something slightly different in there. So I'm going to leave this dry just for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to colour in my mermaid with my Chameleon pencils. I've also got my Spiker glitter pen as well to add some extra sparkles. I'm just going to pop these slightly out of shot so that we can colour in our mermaid. And I want to use some purples and some pinks. So I'm going to start with these, which are number 11, 12, 10, 11 and 12. So I'm going to start off, you have a light end and a dark end with these pencils, so let's put all the light ends together. And then the idea is that they blend seamlessly into the darker end down here, so that you can get the perfect blend. You can also use Gamsol with them, so we'll be doing that too. And I'm going to start at the bottom with pink, like so. And if you go light, you get a light colour. If you press harder, you get a harder colour. So as I go up, I can press harder. And then I can add in some lighty pink, as a purple rather, and then I can press a bit harder. And I'm kind of colouring in the waves of her hair, and I wanted to have that lovely mermaid hair. And then I'm going to go down to a slightly darker purple and just blend that in. You can see how lovely, I'll bring this closer to the camera, I'll pop that further into the screen. I'll bring this up at the end so you can see how well these all blend together. And then I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to frame her face, and this is more into those bluey purples. And then just at the top here, as we get towards the roots, I want to go with that intense purple as well. Now I did practice doing some sharpening with these pencils, and I found that the Prismacolor pencil sharpener really was the best. I'm going to grab some Gamsol, and I have my paper stub here in my hand, and I'm just going to dip this into here. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to blend upwards, and what that will do is give me an even better blend. Now you don't have to do this, this is just kind of that extra mile to fill in any gaps and just make sure those blends are seamless through all the colours. And you want to start light to dark, and you can see I can even pull that colour out around her roots in there, so you can make that colour go even further. So that's one side of her head, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So I'm going to start, let's just fill in down there where I missed a bit. I'm going to start with that light pink, and I just really wanted to have these fun shades in there. So we'll go from light pink, I don't think I put any dark pink in, but we'll put a little bit of dark pink into this side. And all I did was snip her off of her rock, exactly the same way we cut off the rock on the other one. Then I went for the lighter purple, and then into the darker purples, and I keep throwing my pencils around. And I'm going to try to roughly match the other side, but it hasn't got to be exact. And this reminds me of a yarn that I've just been spinning in very similar colours, so match well. So then we can have the lighter purple, and now I'm going to just start off light and get darker and darker, and we'll add some more detail back into her flower afterwards with our Sharpie. And you can see there, so if I bring this up towards the camera, you can see I've got a good blend, but I'm just going to add that extra little bit of smoothness just with that touch of Gamsol. Again, I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm just going to work my way upwards. I really like these Chameleon pencils. I've always been a massive fan of the Prisma pencils before, but I did invest in these and I have to say I'm really happy with them. They come in this box, there's 25 pencils, but you actually get 50 colours because they're double-ended. They're all numbered, and what it has down here, and it's kind of slightly covered in this, but it shows you the light and the dark side of each pencil, and it's in spectrum order. It also has a little magnet so that it will sit up on your desktop just like this. It actually clicks into place and it's not going to move too easily as well. And they're just a really nice set of pencils, very good value. I'm going to use number 6, the light and the dark, for her skin. So I'm going to start off colouring all over with the light. And I'm going to colour in a circular motion, and then I'm going to do the same on her body, and this is with the light end first of all, and the same over her hands. And then I'm going to take this darker end here and I'm going to add in some highlights, so around her little top here, around where her hair would be, the shell, just into her fingers, just to make those stand out a little bit more, around the bottom of her neck. And I'm going to add some rosiness to her cheeks. Definitely looks like a happy mermaid. I'm going to scribble just on a scrap piece of paper with my stick, just to make sure that no colour is going to come out of that. Again, I'm going to dip it in that Gamsol and just scribble out any colour that's in there, so that I can just blend her body into those nice pinky shades. Blend out her cheeks just a little bit so there's no harsh lines. Now we can add some extra sparkle. So this At You Speaker pen is from Copic. It actually has sheds of glass or glitter glass in there, and this is the clear one, so I can literally just put it straight over the top. So I'm going to go over the shell because I just want that shell to just have loads of sparkle. We may even add some Nuvo drops at the end as well. I'm also going to add some sparkle to her hair, and I'm not going to do it all over. I'm just doing some nice wiggly lines just to add a sheen, so that when that card catches the light, we see how beautiful she looks. And I'll be sure to get some close-up pictures, which will be in the linked blog post below, of all of this shimmer and sparkle. I'm not sure how well it kind of gets picked up on here, but there is lots and lots of sparkle going on at this end. So the final thing we want to do is do her tail. So here are my two other Spiker pens. I've got the turquoise and the sky blue. I just had to grab them out of my tote. I forgot to pick those up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use blue at one end, and I'm going to leave a jaggedy edge so that I can blend in my green. I'm going to do the same here, just to kind of keep with that nice mermaidy theme. So we can do, and these, as I say, are made by Copic. They're a great quality marker. Some of these I've had for 10 years and they're still going strong. And then I'm going to use that green to blend in with that blue, so that we've got those lovely ethereal mermaidy colours. And I'm going to colour a little bit over that blue just to kind of pull those colours out. So you can see there how she's got that lovely bluey green, and it's got that gorgeous sparkle. Hopefully the camera will pick up some of that lovely shimmer that we've managed to get in there. So she's definitely that ethereal mermaid we were going for. Now I have got my black Sharpie pen here as well, and what I want to do is I just want to add a little centre to the flower in her hair. And I'm just also adding just a little bit of detail to that foil. Not too much, I don't want to detract from it. It's more about scoring that foil and that will give you that look. And again, on her scales, I'm not going to do them all, I'm just going to do some. And I'm just trying to pick up some of that detail. Now the other thing you could do is you could grab your hybrid, My Favourite Things hybrid, your VersaFine, something permanent, and you could stamp this back on top and add more detail in. But I want to add that texture by hand. So I'm just going over this. I really want to make a firm edge to her skirt around by that shell, and again here. Just sometimes you lose a bit of definition depending where you've put your foiling, but you can go back in and add as much as you'd like until you have those scaly effects. But I think that really does look like a scaly skirt, and I still have all of that lovely foily shimmer in there. So now we can move on to our background and our final assembly of our card. So for a background, I'm using my Primer Metallic Accents. I've got my clean water, my number 15 brush, and then my rinse well, you can see there, that refills with clean water whenever you need it. Now to start with, you want to wet your background. I'm using some Canson Watercolor Cold Press 140 pounds, and I am just adding some droplets there into my paint palette to activate the pigments in there. Now you can choose what colours you want to go with. My initial plan was to do the blue and the green like a sea, and then the pink, and I'm going to add some other colours in as like a sunset above, but you'll see my plan did change slightly, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now you want to keep working, and you can keep fading in. I made mine really wet so that I can hold it up like this and allow those colours to all blend together. You can do a stripy effect, or you can go with something a bit more like this, that I wanted them all to blend and to look kind of very ethereal and mermaidy. So I kept adding colour, I kept allowing them to drip. If they don't drip, just add more water, because the more water you add, the more they'll all run together. And watercolour backgrounds are definitely a process. So once you get to a point and you think you can't go any further, you can either just take some paper towel and wipe it off, or like this, I'm going to go in my Heat It tool, my Ranger tool. This won't move the watercolour around, but it'll just dry everything that's on there really nicely. And I'm working on a gesso board, and I've just masked that edge on there so I can cut it off afterwards. So once it's fairly touch dry, I'm just going in with some more colours. I wanted to add some golds, really going with that sunset idea, and I will show you what happened with that in a minute. So I then spritzed it with water because it just wasn't wet enough, and then I added more pigment to intensify the colours, and that spritz really allowed me to move those colours around, and I love how they've blended together. I've gone up and down so there's no harsh edges on either side, and just keep adding and layering that colour. You can dry in between as you saw me do. So I would just say it's a process, stick with it. You will get something you love in the end. And that's what we ended up with. So then I mounted it on a piece of black cardstock, which I've then mounted on some Neenah Desert Sand. The black cardstock is Lawn Fawn, and I'm using my Tonic Funky Tape Runner. Then I have a 8.5 by 11 half piece of Neenah Solar White that I use as my card base. Now our stone, I'm just using my Big Mama foam tape roll. Everything will be linked below the video, so do check that out. And I'm layering up my mermaid with some foam tape as well, and I'm then going to layer her double on her body part, because you've got one layer under the stone and then you've got one layer you want extra so that she sticks up, so you need double layer on there. Then we can stick her down, and I decided to do it the other way up because otherwise the fin in that blue and the green just didn't look right. So I decided to switch it around, but I still love how it turned out. Right, so that was a little bit wobbly there, sorry about that, but we're now going to stamp our sentiments on our Misty, so we can go ahead now and do that. There's some lovely sentiments in here. There's a Wish You Were Here and there's an Ocean Bliss, and I am going to heat emboss them using some Ranger Superfine white embossing powder. I'm using my Misty corner just to make sure that's nice and straight, and then I can centre up my here as well. These Misty corners are really great for getting a straight sentiment. So be quite generous with your powder tool, just in case mine was still a little bit damp. And then I've inked it up with some Versamark on the other half. And as I say, I'm going to use that Ranger Superfine white embossing powder to get it going. Then just use your heat tool. I've got the Wagner on order, the Hero Arts. I'm really looking forward to that coming. And then I just tidied it up with the powder tool. And of course I used my Judikins red tray. They're now white, but again, they're all linked below this video, so just check the description out. This is an old heat tool that I'm using that I needed when we moved to the States because ours no longer worked on the power here. But if you are looking to get one, then definitely go with that Wagner. Now you can see how sparkly our mermaid looks, and here is a picture of the finished card because I realised that I wanted to add some sequins. It was sitting on my desk and it needed a bit more bling, so here is our finished card. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again next Saturday for another Honeybee Stamps. Happy stamping! Bye!